It's go time. Woo, let the explosion begin. Woo, man. What's up, John?
Man, not a whole lot, Richard, man. Just hanging out. Glad to be here this morning or this afternoon.
It's afternoon, high noon on a Thursday. So our topic today, man, we're just going to deep dive into the big, beautiful bill. I can tell you, John, this since they put this into, past it, I mean, there's a lot of pros, cons, and everything. We're going to break it down today in the staffing industry because we want everybody here to be proactive because, and like we said, today, tomorrow could change a little bit more. It's just like a tidal wave. It's gone in and out. So, but we got some guidelines now about the big, beautiful bill that John's presented before, and we're going to deep dive into it, man. So I got to tell you, how's everything going, man? I got to tell you, I like your backdrop, man. Got the light, got everything going.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I usually use a virtual backdrop, but figured that wasn't going to work today on the live. So
no, brother, man. When you come on here, we're real, we're live. You got to just be right there, man. If your dog barks, your cat jumps on your lap, man, we're gonna have it.
We're gonna have it, man. Live, uncut, unfiltered, right?
That's it, man.
That show years ago in Living Color, I think, or something.
Yeah, it was, man. We're dating ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah, not good. Not good.
But I got to tell you, man, and I seen your post last week. If anybody's seen John's post, definitely reach out to her. We're going to review it today about the big, beautiful bill, and it caught my eye. And this is something that I got to tell you that we're going to talk about today and continue to talk about throughout the months. But I just want to get the breaking news now because I got to tell you, John, a lot of people out there I talk to, they're confused about this bill. They hear so much, good, bad. They watch all the media outlets. What I say, just watch our media outlet. We're the staffing industry media outlet here. But all joking aside is there's a lot going on in it. So let's just break it down. Can we just start from there?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I need to start with a quick little disclaimer first and say, by no means am I an expert on this. It's just something that I've been paying close attention to because I know that it's going to impact all of us in some form or fashion, and my clients as well. So I just kind of started following it. And once it finally became official, I thought, man, we probably need to make sure we're staying out in front of this and looking at this from my vantage point from a risk standpoint really is the goal and what I think I bring to the table here today. So at Shark, you could bring a little bit more of I'd imagine bringing a little bit more of the day-to-day staffing expertise into it.
Oh, yeah. And just remember, no political talk here. We are not going to side. This is no political talk. This is raw and real about what's going to happen in the staffing industry. What we're hoping we can prevent that you guys don't fall into the traps here because there's a lot of different things going on. I think the first thing, I'm just going to throw it out there before I forget, is WOTC is not on the bill. You know that, WOTC credits. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did kind of catch that. And, I thought it was pretty interesting, honestly. I mean, that's been kind of a hot topic here lately across the industry. And for it to not be addressed here was something that did catch my eye, honestly. I was a little shocked by that.
I know, and it expires, I think, December 31st. So, I mean, and a lot of staffing for, especially in light industrial, relies on that, John. I mean, in my industry, that's a lot of tax credits. So hopefully something can be added to that maybe or something like that. But I just want to give everybody's attention that, WOTC is not in this bill at all. So, let's just keep fighting there and hopefully we can get that on there.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, brother, you ready to deep dive in? So let's go. Man. You give us a scoop, man, because you made these slides up. You know what's going on. So let's just roll through it, man.
Yeah, so really the like I said, the angle I was taking here with this was just trying to help folks understand that it's not from a political standpoint of what we're out here doing, but it's definitely going to impact. And there's some things in here that are going to force us to be proactive and force us to have to change the way that we're tracking, whether it be employees, how we're handling our payroll and the tax deductions, what's required now to be able to access benefits and what those benefit changes are doing. How can we use that to our advantage? And how to kind of keep ourselves out of trouble, really. I think that's kind of the goal here is to help that, help understand it from our standpoint and just present the risk out there, right? That's the number one thing. I think, one of the biggest changes in things that I've seen, and I'm kind of flipping through this on my side as well here too, is that, on July 4th, this did become a bill. It was officially signed in. The Senate and the House both approved it. Some of the tax changes, obviously the tax portions of this are going to be retroactive, but then some of the stuff doesn't take effect until January as well. So it gives us a little bit of time to kind of correct ourselves and make sure that we have everything aligned in heading in the right direction there. So that was kind of what I thought was smart. So to kind of notify people that, look, this isn't just being talked about anymore. The big, beautiful bill is now a real big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, it is.
It's not just a figment of somebody's imagination anymore. So kind of interesting to see how that's working out there. But.
Yeah. And you know what I got to tell you, John, is like, some of the stuff in here that we're going to talk about today, I mean, there's a lot of different things about classification, which we're going to deep dive into, which is, they're going to be auditing a lot of stuff these days. So, I mean, you got to have your books in order. That this stuff of just like saying, I'll get to it tomorrow. There could be some hefty fines down the road,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, huge, right? And I think the thing, Richard, kind of the motto that I've always lived by, I actually told somebody this the other day, it's like, if you're not being proactive in these situations, you're falling behind, right? Having a football background, my coaches used to tell me every day, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same, right? So if you're not staying proactive and getting out in front of this stuff, you're going to get left behind, or you're going to get caught in a situation that you don't want to be caught in. Like you were mentioning, the payroll and tax stuff that's happening here, from like overtime and tips. I mean, what's happening there, and how they're now allowing that, how the overtime stuff was not deductible in the past, but now they're allowing you to deduct up to $25,000 per year.
Yeah.
So that's definitely going to impact you and impact your processes, your policies, your procedures, and your processes, right? Like, how are we going through this? How are we going to handle this? But what it's also doing is it's going to be an advantage for you, right? Now, if you've got folks that are maintaining, overtime every week, they're logging overtime hours every week, where before you weren't getting any deduction for that. Now you're going to get a $25,000 per credit per employee. Well, what does that mean to you and your business over time? You're now paying, say that number ends up equaling $1 million, right? You're paying less tax on that $1 million. Well, there's, depending on what tax bracket you fall into, there's significant savings going right back into your bottom line. And, so it's kind of that, thinking ahead, what am I going to do with those savings? Where am I at? What can I do to continue to make myself better in this situation? Right?
So it's going to benefit, take me or not, like manufacturing, any companies, it's going to benefit in a way. Am I right? Am I taking this the right way?
Yeah. Yeah. I see it as a big benefit, especially in, like I said, hospitality, healthcare, light industrial, skilled trades. I mean, really anything that you're getting paid an overtime wage for, it's a benefit for you as the business owner, right? It's definitely a benefit for sure.
Now, here's the thing is, and we just had this slide up, and we'll pull it up again here because we're going to take a deep dive into this, because I got to tell you, more reporting. I mean, there can be more mistakes, more audits. I mean, with that overtime stuff, you got to plug that in a different way because there's no taxes taken out. So, John, I mean, there's going to be there's a lot of programs out there now that's going to have to adjust to that. So whatever you have that's a program now, you're probably going to have to add on to that to get this taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely be sitting down with your payroll vendor, whatever system you're using, or if you're outsourcing, make sure that everything's aligned, right? Because what you don't want to do is miss that. And, maybe you misclassify an employee now as, or something along those lines, you make an error. Well, now what have you just done? You've opened yourself up for audit. You've opened yourself up for fines and penalties. So it could be a huge advantage, but we've got to make sure it's an advantage, right? And not a hindrance. And so that's where the proper preparation comes into play, right? If we're preparing properly now, and thankfully they give us, a little bit of time on this to make sure we've got it right, So
when will the tips? When will the tips go into effect, John? Do you know?
Yeah, this one goes. Everything I'm reading, it's January of 26 and stays active through 28. So
28.
So that's kind of a good little
I'll tell you what, be honest with you, I might go back. I might bartend or be a waiter, right? I mean, that's going to be cash money. I mean, I'm going to tell you, the hospitality industry is going to blow up from this. What's your take on this? I guarantee it. There's going to be so many people jump back into the waiting game.
I agree. Yeah, I think hospitality is. I think it helps. Obviously, anybody in the service industry, from an individual standpoint, right? I think it helps everybody, right? It helps that owner on those when they don't get the cash tips, they get the credit card tips. Now they've been running them through their system. I'm not 100% familiar with how that works, but yeah, I mean, it's got to help, right? And it's got to help the individual at the end of the day too.
Oh, and then overtime. How about this? Because I know we've all worked overtime, and then you look at your paycheck and you're getting double tax and everything. That overtime pay, if you work like 70 hours a week, you're going to make more money in that overtime than you are your full 40 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer. So it seems like if you want to work, this bill at some points is going to be an advantage for the person that wants to work that overtime.
Yeah. If you're willing to put in the work, and that's kind of how I see the whole bill, right? It's kind of the way I view it, from my non-expert average Joe kind of mentality and mindset is I see it as an advantage in a lot of situations for the folks that are willing to go out there and take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And I've been reading a lot on this and on taxation and all that kind of stuff over the years, just over the last several years. But it's kind of, if you could view it as a hindrance to who you are and what you are, and nobody likes paying the taxes. But the way I read a lot of the tax bills and the way things are set up, it's really more of an incentive for you to play the system and play it in a way that helps the economy, right? That's really what they're trying to do, right? So if you're willing to go out there and work the overtime and help grow that business and grow the economy and do all those things, then they're going to be willing to help you here, right? Where in the past they haven't been doing that. So it's kind of the way my mind works and the way I see it.
That's the way I see it too. Like I said, if you want to work the OT, oh my goodness, right now, I just could imagine back in a day, like even my dad worked in a factory and worked all that overtime. Could imagine back in a day, this was an implement. I mean, you'd have a different lifestyle, to be honest with you. I mean, you would, because a lot of, especially steel mills, coal mines, they work a lot of overtime. So that light industrial is probably really going to take off. And a lot of people might jump into this because for me, I'm thinking now people get these jobs at this pay rate, but that overtime goes to time and a half. And it's taxed, no tax on it. You know what you're making? I mean, that is
huge.
You're gonna be in a different tax bracket, a different lifestyle, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Now we could just get the work comp carriers to get on board with that.
Well, that'll take, between me and you, that'll take a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like that happens overnight.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So here's one I want to talk about is the workforce disruption. I mean, because we talked a little bit about this, but we talked about the good things, but now you're going to get more applicants, but you see what happens is it could be a higher turnover rate. I mean, there's a lot of disruptions here. So what's your take on all this, man?
Shark, what I think, that where my thoughts really came from that is really the increase in the I-9s, in the I-9 audits. I think it's going to, right, wrong, or indifferent, those people play a big part in our ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of what side of the fence you stand on, right, there's just, it's a fact, right? We need those workers. So those I-9 interruptions are going to create some issues. I mean, it's just kind of how the cookie's going to crumble. But I do think it does give us some opportunity, though, for the businesses and for the staffing firms in particular, right? That are paying more attention to training, that are paying more attention to employee retention and ways that they can incentivize their employees to stick around and work for them longer, right? By offering better benefits or whatever the case may be. I think it could be an advantage to them, but nonetheless, it's gonna be a difficult road ahead in that space. Trying to get those people. While we're going to have more applicants because they're going to be forced to work to get some of these benefits, what's the quality of the work, right? That's
Exactly,
kind of
because what I'm taking from this bill is like the free handing out benefits. They're going to
yep.
be more strict on that now. Not everybody's going to get Medicaid or anything like that. You know, you're going to have to possibly, how do I say it nicely, force you into the workforce. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you got to work.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. You know, and then the other side of this, I'm not sure if I hit on it in these slides or not. I can't exactly remember, but the other side of this, right, is the big beautiful bill. It's reducing the workforce in with regards to OSHA, the Department of Labor, EEOC enforcement, right? So it's reducing that, which can be seen as a good thing, right? But it also, because enforcement scaled back, right? You're not going to be having as many audits or as much outside policing of that right? Of OSHA violations and things like that. So I think that responsibility, just from protecting the worker and protecting your insurance program and managing that risk, a lot of that's going to fall back on you at this point, right? Because your clients, especially, aren't going to be seeing a lot of those OSHA inspections and things like that. So there's that aspect of it too. I think that's important to hit on.
And that's a concern, John, because me being in light industrial, with forklift drivers and things like that, if somebody's on there regulating that, there could be a lot more injuries. And what happens then? Insurance rates go up and stuff like that. So I think companies are going to have to tighten up there because you get a couple accidents, you know what your premium is going to be? It's going to go skyrocket.
Yeah,
you know that from experience.
Yeah, and there's always going to be pressure. I mean, what was it yesterday? The Fed came out and said that inflation's continuing to rise a little bit and the rates maintained. So, I mean, there's going to continue to be pressure on coming from the clients to keep your rates down for these outsourced employees, these staffing employees. So if your insurance rates are climbing crazy, how do you manage that, right? You've got to figure out a way to make money. So.
And look who's looking out the window. I think we got to look at that there.
Only
live on TV here. What's your dog's name, by the way, John?
Trip. Tripp. Yeah.
Look at that. Joining this. Hey, he's joining the big bill, right?
Yeah. We can throw him in there too. Wow.
That's it. So one thing it does concern me, and talking about OSHA again, this is something I think our staffing industry really has to take seriously. When you work with a client, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of background work, make sure they have safe requirements in place there because, like we said, short on OSHA, they might be doing some stuff that, you don't want to have an accident, definitely if you're a staffing firm. So, this is where we have to come in here and almost be like the OSHA and enforce that.
Yeah, I agree. And, that goes back to like what we were talking about at the beginning, right? Some of these benefits where you're going to have the pricing or increased revenue per se, or less taxation on the revenue that you're making, right? Now what are you going to do with that money, right? Or are we going to just go blow it on a nice fancy trip? Fine. But, what about doing additional training or taking on some of that responsibility to improve your business long term? I think that's what I'd like to see more folks do. But
so it seems like this bill is putting more responsibility on the companies. This is what I'm seeing, John, a lot.
Yeah, I'd agree for sure. Yeah, that's my take again. I do see that for sure. It's
and then you'll get the tax breaks in the end. It seems like. So if you follow the guidelines, it seems like you'll have more profit at the end and they'll give that to you. But if you don't follow it, man, they're bringing the hammer down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's kind of like a pay to play type mentality, right?
Here we go. This is a big one. I mean, of all the stuff on the big, beautiful bill, Medicaid comes up all the time, doesn't it?
Yep.
Over and over.
Yep. Every time. Yeah, I agree. And obviously here, right, the big impact is going to be on the healthcare side of it, right? I mean, where, the medical, the allied healthcare staffing, all of that, I think is going to continue to be, impacted by this side of it, right? Because of some of the funding cuts that are happening, right? I read this morning an article. I mean, obviously this was in Canada, but in Canada's health system and all of that is much different than ours. But they were talking about how they were, mandating wage and hour issues up there, right? And you couldn't have more than 10%. A temporary travel nurse couldn't be making more than 10% than the in-house nurse, and even in some regions they were saying, if I read it right, that they were saying they were limiting the use of them as well, right? So you just worry about, with all these cuts coming, what does that mean? Slower payments coming to them, less demand. I mean, so it's really going to have to be, you're going to have to find ways to work within that system, right? It's such a niched payment model within there anyway. So it's going to just put that much more pressure on you.
And I think with this bill, it's going to hit the healthcare staffing sector big time. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. I mean, what I've read, John, is like even nursing homes and stuff like that. If these bills slow on, if insurance isn't paying this, guess what? Less staff.
Yeah. Less staff, less quality of care means overworked staff that's there, lower pay, higher injury rates. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I was talking to one of my clients who was saying, we were going through their insurance renewal, and he was talking about the exorbitant cost of the professional liability side for that. And he said, John, at this point, I'm thinking about just totally pulling out of that and going a different direction not because of the cost. I can make the cost of this insurance program work, but he said the credit risk side of what this brings to the table is not good. He said, I've lost money on one deal. I've gotten not paid on one deal in my X number of year career. And that was in healthcare staffing, right? Where they didn't get paid on the deal. So he's like, the credit risk side of this. And then this was before the big, beautiful bill got passed, that he was saying, and who knows what that's going to bring. So, I think that's something that's, as you hit on the head, Richard, it's scary out there.
It is. And I think I read nursing homes are going to get hit hard because, I mean, they rely on this, John. It's just not even the staff. I mean, if their bills are getting delayed, how are they going to pay their water bill? How are they going to stay afloat? That's my concern.
Right. Yeah, that's that whole, in a previous life, I worked with several nursing homes, and, their whole model is based off of that Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement. And it's managing the dollars and cents below that reimbursement line, right? And you're basically trying to work to a net zero, right? But anything above that, right? So if you see a spike in your cost above that line, that's all coming out of your pocket, and how long can you do that, right? And if they're cutting those funds, right, then how long are these folks going to be willing to continue to do that? Because the days of having nursing homes or healthcare, facilities for the kindness of your heart, a lot of that's gone, right? It's turned into more of just a shrewd businessman running that and understanding the model, right? That's what that whole world has become. So if they can't win, they're going to start pulling out, right? It's not just for the.
I think we've all have nursing home. With my grandparents, I had some stories. We won't even talk about them, but like I always said, my parents both living right now. They'll stay at home the rest of their life. That's all I have to say on that end. You know what I mean? So it's and it's going to be one of them too. Like if you say you can't take care of the loved one at home, and you put them in a nursing home, and Medicaid only pays so much. What happens then? Yeah. Where do they put this person at? I mean, medication. I mean, it's a trickle down effect. It happens with everything. If it's just going to be delayed on the insurance, it's going to be delayed on the medication, everything like that. There's going to be a lot of roadblocks that we have to iron out.
Yep. I just think the biggest thing here to point out, and Richard, I'm with you. My first job I ever had was in a nursing home. So my mom helped run one. And so I got to be on the janitorial staff. So as a 15, 16-year-old kid cleaning up nursing homes, you can imagine the things I saw. So I get it from that standpoint. But I think the biggest thing to understand here is just, the financial pressure it's going to put these staffing firms under to try to manage what's being passed down to them. I think it's understanding that. I think it's understanding the credit risk, obviously, that you're facing. That all kind of ties into one another. But, I think that's going to be the challenge. And then it's going to be, how do we do more with less, which is always the issue, right? We can't have tired, overworked individuals over there trying to move, how do I say it without, I'll just say it, but, moving your dead weight, right? You're trying to move dead weight. Well, there goes your back, right? Because you've been working nonstop for the last 2 weeks and you're exhausted, right? So, that's going to start. We're going to start seeing, and just the thing we also got to think about is culture, right? And just employee morale and all those kind of things that are going to be impacted by that. So it's just something to keep your eye on. And really, I think it's time to dig into it and make sure that we're heading in the right direction for sure.
You got it, man. And then we go client liability. Here we go. I mean, this is one here that I see all the time. Misclassifying workers. I see that happen all the time when I work with staffing firms. I have to go in and tell them, because if you misclassify something and somebody gets hurt, John, you know what happens? You're not getting covered. That's coming out of your bottom line.
Yep. Yeah. Agree. Yeah. I tell people all the time, Richard, there's no such thing as an unpaid claim, right? You hear that misnomer spoken a lot in our industry, but reality of it is somebody's ultimately paying for that. What they mean is that the insurance company's not going to pay for that, right? But it's still that injured employee or that loss of property, somebody's still going to pay for that, right? So I think those mistakes, those misclassification mistakes, you're opening yourself up to massive audits. When it comes to whether it be IRS type audits or you're opening yourself up to massive workers' comp type audits. I think you're Department of Labor audits. I mean, there's just a lot that comes into that, and we can't allow the client, to dictate the situation. I know sometimes we feel like we have to, right? Because we're there just to support them, but I think we've got to make sure we're looking out for our best interests as well, and that we've got all of our ducks in a row. So, I think it's just making sure that we're not ignoring those benefit mandates, and that we're not violating any of the new rules that are out there, right? So, I think that's all things that we need to be paying a lot of attention to. I think one of the positives of the big blue or the big bill here is the joint employer rules, that were kind of put in there. Before, under the previous administrations, it was a pretty broad definition, and the staffing clients often shared the liability in those situations. But in this bill, the way I'm reading it is that staffing firms are going to regain some of that independence, and so hopefully that will reduce some of the client fear of the co-employment joint employer rules, and maybe make their sales, their willingness to hire out or to outsource their labor a little bit more friendly.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the staffing firms now have the upper hand, because they can actually talk to the client and educate them on the bill. I mean, yep. I'm gonna tell you, John, I just talk to people and they're all confused. Clients are too. I mean, there's companies out there that have no clue about what's going on here. So if you can educate them so everybody can make profit and have a healthy workforce, I think it's a no-brainer.
I agree. 100%.
All right, buddy. So here we go. What smart firms are doing. Here we go. So we wrapped it up with this, but this is some of this stuff, man. You can go through these highlights here, but this is being proactive right here. 100% by John.
Yeah, man. It goes back to what I said earlier at the start, right? It's what are in every situation in life. This is the way I believe, and how I believe it works, is every situation in life, you're dealt a hand. It's how you play that hand is what matters, right? And ultimately, the most successful people in the world are just playing the hand smarter, right? They're playing them smarter, more strategically. And it started, we all started from the same place, right? For the most part. So, how are you going to play that hand? And I think being proactive, staying out in front of this, getting with your partners, whether they're your payroll partner, if you're outsourcing that, or anybody that can help educate your payroll department, your HR teams, any of the outsourced, your legal team, your insurance brokers, dig in, man. Now is the time to be making sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row, making sure that all the contracts align, that we're doing everything we can, like we talked about throughout this whole thing. I think the general theme is everything that we can do to maximize this to our benefit, right? There is some negatives in this bill, no doubt, right? But there's a lot of good that I think if approached properly and handled properly, we can take advantage of and only make ourselves better in the long run. I think the firms that are going to try to just remain status quo or do the bare minimum are going to be the ones that we're talking to in, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I'm not sure how long the tail will take, but they'll be the ones that are talking about how hard it is out there in the industry and just how tough things are. And, I don't understand why Shark's business is taking off over there and my business is lagging behind, right? It's going to come back to a place in time like right now, and who took advantage of this and who saw it as a roadblock, right?
You summed it up. And I always tell everybody, in staffing just in general, you got to be on offense, not defense.
Yes.
So if you hear negative stuff about the bill, yes, that's it. But you can turn that negative to a positive. I always do that 24/7 with my life, but be on offense here. This is what we're trying to tell you today, man. Proactive, John, like you said, on everything in life, but especially this bill. There's stuff in here that's probably maybe going to change, tweak it. But right now is the time to tweak it all.
Yep, I agree. It's, a couple things to hit on. I know we got to wrap it up here, but I think a couple things to hit on that are happening here is that, there's things like, we didn't touch on this, but the dependent care FSA cap, right? The old rule had it where it was sitting at $5,000 a year that you could put into that. And you think about, okay, what does that really matter? Well, the new rule is $7,500 a year, right? That two people, a husband and wife, could put away for that. Well, the dependent care situation is designed for daycare, right? That's daycare and managing your children, right? Well, okay, so you're a single mom, right? You're working, but now your hours are limited because you had to go, go pick up your child from school because you couldn't afford to keep them in after school programs. Well, if they're going to allow you to put more money into that and allow you to do things pre-tax, then take advantage of it, right? And educate yourself, educate your team on things like strategies like that are going to help your employees, right? It's I think all of those kind of things, there's a couple little things like that. There's the qualified business income deduction pass-through, right? The QBI is what it's really called. And it's allowing business owners now to pass through, they're getting back that 20% qualified deduction, permanently now that was supposed to have gone away, from 2017, Trump's 2017 tax law. So they're getting that back, right? So that lowers the tax burden for the owners. And, so there's just there is a lot of positive in here, I do think. The paid family leave tax credit, right? I took some notes here. That's, it's continuing. It's extended through 2030. It was supposed to be done this year, but they're extending that through.
Oh, did they really? Can you break that down a little bit, John? Because you did some research on that. Give everybody out there what it's about.
It's basically just continue. It's incentives for offering leave benefits for whether it be your family medical leave stuff or birth of children, all of that kind of things. They're continuing to give credit for that. The employees are still going to get paid through that, but they get a tax break for it basically by offering that. So it's the employer gets the tax breaks for it. So it's figuring out creative ways to use this and making sure that you have all of those things within your power and within what you're able to do and what you want to do. Have them ready and use those to retain employees, attract new employees, grow your business, increase your quality controls, your policies, procedures, protocols, all of that, right? And then I think if done properly, you can do that, right? Yes, the risk is rising. Yes, the compliance demands are shifting and margins could possibly take a hit, right? But I promise you, it's only going to be worse if you're not being proactive and being out in front of it. So.
Words of wisdom by John. Anything else you want to touch base on, man? We didn't touch base on the bill. Anything else, man?
Man, I'm still reading and trying to learn every day. So, I think I'm tapped out at the moment on it, brother. But, and I know I probably missed a few things, guys. But, man, I really appreciate you having me on. And
no, brother, man, this has probably been the most. People will say, Shark, what's up? You're so mild today because I want to deep dive into this. This is not like hyped up or a joke. This is factual stuff that I wanted to bring. That's why I have the breaking news up on top there, John. What you posted last week, I just love this, and I wanted to go through it in detail because I think now, hopefully, everybody that watches this gets a bigger picture of what's actually going on. So I hope we broke it down. That's our whole goal, was to deep dive into it, but break it down in segments. So now you understand when you put your strategy together with clients, here it is right here. Here's the playbook right here. Work on this, tweak it with some other stuff, because I'm sure by next week, John, there'll be something else in the bill that we don't know about that just is added. This is like one of them big tsunamis, up and down, right?
Yep, 100%, man. Hey, 100%. Yeah.
Hey, brother, where can they reach you at?
Well, obviously, you can reach me at LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there. It's just John McGarvey. You can obviously reach out to me. So I am with Marsh McLennan Agency and do work primarily. 99.9% of my clients are in the staffing business and the staffing industry. And I would say that we've got the number one, the best. I mean, we're the biggest staffing agency out there, but I'd say we're the best at it too. So feel free to reach out to me there. All of my contact information is on LinkedIn, but you can reach out there, shoot me an email, john.mcgarvey@marshmma.com. But yeah.
And he will get back to you within quick time, because trust me, when I send him an email, boom, he's back in no time. Flashes here. Before we go, I just want to give a shout out right here. If you guys get a chance, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's a Staffing Influencer Valuetainment channel. We have guests on like John and everything like that every week, cutting edge, high energy all the time, but we're going to make you better every day.
Awesome.
Brother John, thank you so much from ATL, hot ATL. How's the weather down there right now, man?
Man, we're actually a little overcast today. As I look out there, we're a little overcast. So, but it's still probably 90 degrees out there,
Well,
so
it's overcast here outside West Virginia and 70 degrees. So, I think your weather is a little bit better than ours, but that's always good.
I'll be honest, I'd trade with you. My big ass isn't built for all this heat.
Well, hey, Brother John, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, we'll bring you on again. Thank you for this. I hope everybody out there got a little bit of education today. And like I said, it's always about raw and real. No political talk here. Take care, guys.
Thanks.